What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. Disney is getting absolutely crushed online right now, as is their golden boy, Mark Rip Jojo Ruffalo, over a tweet that he just put out that is far worse than anything Gina Carano ever put out. And many people are calling on Disney to fire him because, well, that's what they fired Gina Carano for. If nothing else, this tweet and his continued employment by Disney will serve very well, I think, for Gina Carano's pending lawsuit against them. If you're not following this, Gina Carano is suing Disney over being fired over a tweet that many other people that work for Disney had made very similar tweets. Pedro Pascal, Mark Ruffalo now, except they're all leftists. She made the same tweet or similar comparison, and she was fired. Now, people are protected in California. And so I think she may have just won her lawsuit with this. Before I get into that, just a quick word from this video's sponsor. Many of you out there are worried about the fate of the US dollar. We're living in increasingly uncertain times. The rise of digital currencies, stock market volatility, and recession warnings. Financial analysts are urging Americans to get prepared right now. That's why you should strongly consider physical gold and silver to protect your retirement, like IRAs and 401ks. Preserve Gold can explore the right options for you and help you take the first step towards protecting your wealth. Today, they're giving my viewers a no-obligation free wealth protection guide that contains 25 pages of detailed information. Text the word quartering, one word, to 50505. Learn how you can help put physical gold and silver into an IRA and 401k, and even purchase precious metals for delivery directly to your home. Preserve Gold has hundreds of five-star reviews and millions of dollars in trusted transactions and satisfied clients. Additionally, you can get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with qualified purchases. Again, text quartering, one word, to 50505 or visit preservegold.com/thequartering to receive an exclusive offer today. Link in the description below. This article via thatparkplace.com. John F. Trent wrote, Gina Carano eviscerates the Walt Disney Company as Mark Ruffalo compares America to the bad guys from WW2. Now, if you remember, Gina Carano was fired unquestionably over a tweet where she basically said, hey, the bad guys from WW2 didn't do it all on their own. They didn't round up all these people all on their own. They had the help of everyday citizens, and that is an irrefutable fact. She was making a point that during the lockdowns, during the COOF, during the, mandatory jabs and things of that nature, regular everyday citizens who weren't health officials, who weren't police, who weren't whatever, were happy to tattle on their friends. And that absolutely happened. You saw in Canada, they had hotlines where you could call and tattle on your neighbor if they had people over for Thanksgiving. I mean, this was a very real thing. And it happened right here in the United States too. So, it's like, I'm not going to pretend that it didn't happen. Now, Ruffalo appeared to react to the U.S. Supreme Court decision, protecting former presidents, quote, having some immunity from criminal prosecution, official acts of his tenure in office. Of course, this was taken as to only be in reference to Donald Trump, when that is not the case. It's in reference to all presidents, just like Barack Drone Obama, who vaporized American citizens in his drone strikes, things of that nature. These people can't be prosecuted for that kind of stuff. Democrats always like to pretend like their presidents have never done anything wrong and that might never need presidential immunity. Mark Ruffalo did not take the ruling well and seemingly compared the United States to Occupy Germany. He posted on X, just for the record, history's repeating itself. And he puts a tweet up, showing a swastika. This is March 1933. The Enabling Act becomes law in Germany, giving the chief executive power to enforce his own laws without checks and balances. The passing of the act marked the formal transition from the democratic republic to totalitarian dictatorship. 6 months later, it was a one-party state. So his implication is that presidents, not just Donald Trump, presidents getting some level of immunity while doing their job in office is the same thing that happened to Occupy Germany. Now, this is, I think, an even more direct comparison. He's literally calling somebody, the Mr. Mustache guy. It's just as unhinged. And to be clear, He has every right to say this, even though I think it's laughable, but he didn't get fired for it, and Gina Carano did. Carano responded to Ruffalo on X, quote, double standards on full display. It's a constant and obvious elephant in the room in Hollywood. There is example after example, such as Mark Ruffalo below, that prove this, whom, by the way, I believe should have the right to express himself without getting fired, although I cringe at most of his political posts. He is an actor, but he is a human being passionately engaging in something he feels strongly about. It must be a nice feeling to express yourself so freely. She added, not everyone in this country has that privilege without having everything taken from them. Do we wonder why he has that privilege and I did not? The answers are in my case. Carano continued. I know people would prefer basketball players just dribble or actors just act, but when you're in a world where lives are being destroyed and lost all around you, how does any human become forced to stay silent when this stuff surrounds them? Disney and Lucasfilm maliciously twisted the narrative of a meme I posted, which I was encouraging neighbors not to demonize their neighbors or history could repeat itself. They twisted that meme into saying that I was denigrating people of their cultural and religious beliefs. It was suggested that I was comparing Republicans to Jewish people during the occupied time in Germany, something I never said or posted, she asserted. Carano then declared, I never called anyone this kind of thing. I never denied that any event that happened. Read the last sentence again. I never did this, yet I was smeared as an anti-Semite. That does not seem to happen to a certain group of people that choose to use these comparisons the same way. Why is that? Rules for thee and not for me. So what are the rules exactly? This lie was fed to you by the corrupt media based off a statement from Disney and Lucasfilm, who have since doubled down on their slander towards me. Their narrative took a life of its own, and while my own life and career were tossed aside, she said. The media repeated this lie until it became an untruthful fact to many who aren't the best at doing their own research, who instead listen to fake news and what we've seen, quote, journalism digress into. Spare a very few brilliant journalists, Carano noted. Next, she stated, a demoralized society becomes hungry for propaganda, willing to give up their rights and rights of others. It causes division and drives societies into a mob mentality, picking on a group of people, turning neighbor against neighbor. It was one of the largest reasons the gates were opened for the bad guys in World War II to come into power in the first place. This way of doing things cannot be based condemning and destroying people's livelihoods and careers off of. The media manipulates the masses so easily based on their affiliations with large corporations and powerful people who signal and encourage them to destroy them, she noted. I mean, ultimately, look at all the people that are in the Free Palestine movement and the stuff that they're freely saying about Jewish people, right? There never seems to be any kind of consequence for that. There's all sorts of people saying, oh, maybe the mustache guy was right. I mean, these are like things that people actually have tweeted. I don't agree with that. They have every right to say that. But because they're progressives or because they're leftists, there's no real financial penalty. There's no blowback. And again, I'm not saying there should be, because there shouldn't be. They should be allowed to have their own opinions. However, only one side of the aisle seems to. And by the way, I don't necessarily think Gina Carano is a conservative. She's just like a regular, everyday person who probably isn't very political. From there, Carano provided an update on her lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company. Quote, where my case stands of now, we are patiently waiting with respect to the judge's ruling on whether she will grant or deny Disney Lucasfilm to dismiss my case that I have brought against them. My hope is that this case brings balance back to a very broken industry, she shared. My case is not just for the people who think exactly like me, but for everyone who will be and who has been placed in this position. Let's restore the balance, something that I believe the majority of the industry desires, just as I believe the majority of our beautiful country desires as well. I would 100% agree. We can have conversations where we don't agree. In fact, we might just learn something from one another through more conversations. Conversation over cancellation, like I've said from the beginning. I mean, Gina absolutely, got a raw deal here because Twitter bots wanted her gone. And, look what the Mandalorian's turned into now since then. Who talks about the Mandalorian anymore? Once they got rid of Gina, I was out. And it wasn't like I started watching The Mandalorian because of Gina. I didn't really know much about her at that time. But once they fired her, it's like, oh, I don't need this show in my life. It's not really that big a deal. It's not really a big sacrifice. It's like, oh, you're not watching. Oh, you're not. Oh, you think the Acolyte's dumb. Oh, like it's okay. You can either watch and enjoy it or don't. But nobody needs these shows in their life. The more important fight is that Gina Carano was wildly unfairly treated. She was beloved by fans, and it's simply because she wasn't a leftist that she was fired. And it's for that reason that I support her, and I hope she wins a massive lawsuit against Disney, because what they did to her is entirely wrong. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe or follow down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.